Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Unnachari Yamuna Tira Unnachari Tira Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Gonitai ki jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Landaneshwara ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Agauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Vastachare Shatarine. We give this to Vasu Ghosh, please. Give it to Vasu Ghosh. You know Vasu Ghosh? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. What's the, I have no idea the verse. What's the verse, chapter?
10, 16,
10, 16, 49. Chapter is Krishna chastises the serpent Kaliya. Please repeat. Twang hi asya janma stiti sanyaman vibho gunai anihaha akrita kalashakti drik tatat svabhavan patibhodayan satah samikshaya amoga viharaha ihase Tvang yasya janmastiti sanyaman vibho gunairaniho kala shakti drik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samikshaya moga vihara ihase Tvang yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho gunairaniho kritakala shakti trik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samiksha moga vihara ihase Tvang yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho Gunaraniho kritakala shakti drik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samikshaya moga vihara ihase Tvang yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho Gunairaniho kritakala shakti drik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samikshaya moga vihara ihase Yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho Gunaraniho kritakala shakti trik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samikshaya moga vihara ihase Tvang yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho Gunaraniho kritakala shakti drik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samikshaya moga vihara ihase Ladies Tvang yasya janma stiti sanyaman vibho Gunaraniho kritakala shakti drik tat svabhavan patibhodayan satak samiksha moga vihara ihase Tvam, you, he, indeed, Asya, of this universe, Janmastiti Sangyaman, the creation, maintenance, and destruction. Vibho, O Almighty Lord, Gunai, by the modes of nature. Aniha, although uninvolved in any material endeavor. Akrita, beginningless. Kala Shakti, of the potency of time. Trick, the holder. Tut tut, of each of the modes. Svabhavan, the distinctive characteristics. Patibhodayan, awakening. Sataha, which are already present in their dormant state. Samikshaya, by your glance. Amoga Viharaha. Can we get some water, please, for Sugosh Prabhu? You sure? Anyway, still it's good to have water. Everything will go in time. We don't want you to go. Some diet. That's a gospel. We never learned, do we? What to do. Yeah. Excuse me. Hare Krishna. Samikshaya, by your glance. Amoga Vihara, whose playful activities are whose playful activities are impeccable. Ihase, you act. It's a really nice word, impeccable. We don't hear it so much now. Impeccable, not so commonly used. What does impeccable mean? Something which you can't peck. Someone's very perfect, yes, very, yeah, you could say impeccable. Very first class, very, very perfect. Translation and purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. O Almighty Lord, although you have no reason to become involved in material activity, still you act through your eternal potency of time to arrange for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe. You do this by awakening the distinct functions of each of the modes of nature, which before the creation lie dormant. Simply by your glance, you perfectly execute all these activities of cosmic control in a sporting mood. This is the prayers of the Nagapatnis, is that correct? We're reading the prayers of the Nagapatnis, the wives of the Kaliya serpent. Purport. Skeptics may question why the Supreme Lord has created the material world, which is full of birth, maintenance, and death. Here the Nagapatnis point out that the Lord's pastimes are amoga, beyond any discrepancy. Sri Krishna actually desires that all conditioned souls live with him in his eternal kingdom. But those forgetful souls who are inimical to their loving relationship with God must go to the material world and be subjected to the conditions of time. The fortunate conditioned souls are startled, interesting word to use,
are startled into remembrance of their actual position as loving servants of the Lord. And from within the heart, the Lord then encourages them to come back home, back to Godhead, where time is conspicuous by its absence, and where eternal, blissful existence supersedes the dramatic but disturbing functions of cosmic creation and annihilation. End of purport. Om Jnana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Nihena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So these wonderful prayers of the Nagapatnis after this exciting pastime of Krishna chastising the Kaliya serpent amongst the demons who created disturbance in Vrindavan. We see he didn't kill the Kaliya serpent. Of course, the Kaliya serpent didn't directly come to attack Krishna. Most of the other demons, they were sent on a mission, specifically targeting Krishna. Whereas the Kaliya serpent was there, no doubt was a demon, but nonetheless was there in a kind of a different way. But as soon as, of course, Krishna disturbed, this is the demoniac mentality. As soon as we are disturbed by anything to do with Krishna, this is the sign of demoniac mentality. Even in our own Krishna consciousness, sometimes we don't understand the hand of Krishna working and we get disturbed as a result of our conditioned nature or nature averse to Krishna. Sometimes even in little things, somebody doesn't give us the extra gulab or something, we get disturbed. Or they try to wake us up when we're falling asleep during japa and we become disturbed. I'm not sleeping. We have this kind of Kaliya nature, someone stepping into our territory, just like Krishna. He entered into the territory of Kaliya. We all think we've got our little territories, our little zones. Even on a bigger level, sometimes we think, this is my zone. Right? Don't come here. This is the mentality of, kind of in a sense, of Kaliya. That's like envious mentality, because he epitomizes. We've already been through this ecstatic pastime of how Krishna danced. Wouldn't it be nice if we could also have that great? I mean, Krishna's actually doing it. We're just taking a little while before that poison comes out. Just like with Kaliya, it took a little while. Krishna, he was almost dead before he was revived. Sometimes it's like that with us. We're almost dead before we wake up. We realize, what's going on around here. We'll fight to the death to keep our territory. But eventually, when we realize that we've lost, we've been, completely finished. We're finished with this effort to try to be, the king of the lake, the king of whatever it is we think we've got. And we actually surrender to Krishna. Just like Kaliya, he eventually realized this ain't going to work. He was trying to, do everything he could to defeat Krishna, to establish his own position. Eventually, although he had thousand hoods and so many coils and this and that, he still couldn't. He was helpless, hopeless. Practically everyone was afraid of him. He was so powerful, but Krishna just played with him. He was really fortunate, because he got the good fortune, many good fortunes. How did he get that good fortune? Jai Shri Shivadlaneshwar Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. How do we get the good fortune? What on earth have we done to deserve this opportunity to be startled to Krishna consciousness? That word stuck in my mind, being startled. I don't know if I've been startled yet. One day we may be startled, but somehow or another we're on the surface at least. It's like trying to approach Vrindavan. The demons kind of don't enter into the real. They're on the surface, really. They come to the surface, so we're still kind of like tickling on the surface of Krishna consciousness. We may think we're having it's a little difficult, but we're not really entering into Krishna consciousness deep enough. And we've got to enter in deep, just like Krishna jumped into that lake, and then the demons then were killed. He diving in, dancing on. Like we also have to have that. Let Krishna dance on my hoods. We've also got loads of hoods. We may not be able to see them physically. We got tons of hoods, different types of poison. Some of them we're hiding away there. Some of them we're hiding away. He was lucky. Kali was lucky. He had his many wives, these Nagapatnis, who were living there. He was very powerful mystic. He created this city. Just like sometimes the mystics, they create cities out of the various elements. We're only used to a city like London, which is made out of a particular combination of the gross material elements. But he was able to make a city in the water. Some make cities in the air. We cannot see them. We cannot perceive them or even possibly live in them. But he was very powerful. He made that city there, protecting himself from the danger of Garuda and so on. And he was living there, but he had this tremendously envious nature, demonic, sinful nature. By hearing this pastime, of course, we can understand that we can. Another wonderful thing about this pastime, besides the fact that we can learn many lessons from it, one becomes purified by hearing it. Very wonderful pastime of all the pastimes. In fact, these particular personalities appearing in various demoniac ways, they personify various anarthas. These are they all come out when Krishna dances on his hoods. All these sinful desires, sinful envious desires, and so on and so forth, possessive desires, they all come out in the form of poison. We've got to get it out. It's kind of Krishna, process of Krishna consciousness is like that. It's like Krishna dancing on our internally, dancing on our heads. Like that. We should want that. Not that we try to avoid it. It's a little it's called austerity. It wasn't very pleasant. It's like going to the dentist or something. Not very pleasant. You've got to do it sometimes. Got rotten teeth. They got to be pulled. And it's not a very pleasant experience. Maybe a little less these days. I don't know. But I know when I was a kid, to me, if there was a devil, it was the dentist. I used to terrify of the dentist. I had some extraordinary experiences at the dentist. But anyway, I remember one time I was at the dentist and they used to put gas on in those. You remember that, Vasco? Should you ever have gas? I don't know. They put this thing on your mouth and it gasses you and you go unconscious. You had that? Yeah, they still got it occasionally. I've heard. I haven't seen it. Some injection or something. But they used to put this mask on your face when I was a kid. Back in the 50s and whatever it was, and you'd knock you out. And we'd just been watching all these movies of the First World War and this thing and that thing that used to scare. I thought it was going to kill me. I thought we're going to be going to war. It was horrific. Nightmares. We had nightmares about the death. Every kid partly had this experience. It's really hellish. There's supposed to be an incentive so you clean your teeth and don't eat too many sweets or something. I don't know what it was, but it didn't work with me. But anyway, I used to hate it. And one time they put this blooming gas mask on me, and I become, like stunned. But I was conscious, fully conscious. I could feel everything. It was the most hellish experience of my life. You're pulling a tooth out, and I could feel it, fully conscious. It was so hellish. I mean, I couldn't move. I couldn't indicate I was conscious, nothing. But I could feel the pain. It was an incredible experience. That's the material world, It's what we don't realize we're going through, We get so used to it after a while, we think it's okay. And sometimes when someone tries to wake us up, we don't want to wake up. We're so stuck in our rut. Kaliya certainly didn't want, it's Krishna dancing on his heads like this. And it's like that in a sense that we were being, now we're in of course there's a lot, it's not as, say, as painful as that in any way whatsoever. But sometimes we find that, the little austerities of sacrifice, of surrender, we don't want. We want to maintain. Keep things as they are, Whereas actually it's Krishna's mercy. He's trying to clear away those poisons which are keeping us under the grips of time. He says, what mercy have we got? what good fortune have we got? He got the good fortune because he had the association. Of course, he had Garuda's association too. There's no doubt that always pays off in the long run. But he had specifically his wives. He was so fortunate. He had so many wives, and they were always praying for him. In fact, they went through 3. Now, I think the next chapter may be their prayers, is it? No? When do they start prayers? Have they already... Oh, this is their prayers. Excuse me. We're going through their prayers now. I thought it was a separate chapter. We're going through their prayers now, and they're so fortunate. And sometimes we don't hear about it. But actually, they were praying in different ways. Before Kaliya, when he was a demon, or behaving in a demoniac way, let's say, they were praying that somehow or another he get the mercy. This is how we get the mercy of the Lord. This is the unique thing about how we can get free of this material world. It's really by the good wishes of devotees. We've got to get that good wishes. He was so fortunate, somehow or another, his wives were devotees of Krishna. And they were praying that their husband may somehow or another get the mercy of the Lord, that he be delivered. So by their prayers, really, he got this whole pastime kind of enacted in one sense. And then when Krishna started to dance on the hoods of Kaliya, they started to pray. Well, first of all, they were praying. There are 3 prayers. They were praying that, please deliver our husband. Then they started praying, please kill him. It sounds a little odd, doesn't it? Your wives are praying, please kill our husband. Well, maybe not so odd these days. Maybe, I don't know. But in principle, it's very odd. Extremely odd. Why? Because they realize the real purpose of life. It's not just to, remain in this world, try to adjust things, make things comfortable, and so on and so forth, which most conditioned souls aspire for, even in relationship with spiritual, even in relationship with Krishna consciousness. And certainly there's an element of that, otherwise we can't go from one extreme to the other. But the reality of it is we don't belong in this world. This is not our home. And as long as we're seen as our home, as long as we're still trying to adjust things in this material world for our pleasure, of course we can endeavor, because of our conditioning, to use that conditioning to adjust things for Krishna's pleasure. That should be there. But as long as we're trying to adjust things for our own pleasure, then we haven't learned a lesson. We're going to go through a few more exciting experiences in this world until we're startled, until we wake up, until we realize this is a drama. The other word used in this verse, or purport rather, supersedes the dramatic but disturbing function. So the spiritual world also, in this world, is a dramatic experience, but disturbing. It's certainly very dramatic, there's no doubt about that. But when we realize it, when we wake up and see, it's like if some of us here have been involved in a lot of drama. And the first thing you have to do when you're in a drama? What's the first? I don't know if that's written in stone, so to speak, but in principle, what's the first thing if you want to be kind of like good in drama? Of course you may not be that way inclined, but assuming you are, what's the first thing? Pardon? Sorry? Remember your lines. Not really. You've got to probably do that too, although that's not even required if you're actually an actor. Elocution is, these things are very useful and very, certainly very, you could say, if you're going to perform in a drama, it's good to know your lines, it's good to have good speech. It's good to have a good speech. But you may not necessarily either. The best actor I've ever seen didn't speak a word. Charlie Chaplin. No, you don't have to become like Charlie Chaplin. Huh? You're on the right path. You have to completely identify with the part and totally forget who you are. Yeah, come right into the character. Completely. Absolutely. Because otherwise, Prabhupada gives the example also. Another simpler example, say, for instance, a guy walking on a tightrope. I don't know if you've ever been to the circus. I don't mean Oxford Circus. That's also the same thing, really. It's basically worse. You get easily. I was on the train coming in yesterday. About 99% of the people got off at Oxford Circus. I know what they're all doing there. They're having a circus there. It is. It's a circus. There's animal zoo. There's a zoo, and they're getting completely left, right, and center, captivated by it all. Huh? Go mad. Drives around the bend. So anyway, when you're on the tightrope up there in the circus, what you have to keep. What's the secret of walking across that rope? Balance is the secret. And how do they keep their balance? What does Prabhupada gives a simple example? What is that?
Focus on one point.
Yeah, they focus their attention entirely on the point at the end of the rope. As soon as they look left and right, pong, down they go. And that's what's happening, you know. We're looking left, right, and center, even though we got, Krishna's right here. But we're looking left, right, and center. We're chanting Hare Krishna and we're looking left, right, and center. Isn't it? We're reading Bhagavatam and we're just looking down. Fast asleep. If not physically, mentally. We're not focused on... The goal is there, We got the balance. Prabhupada's given us the balance. Yes, we keep our eyes on the goal. At the end of the rope. So back to the drama. Identifying with a part. If you want to play that part, you got to really focus on it. Otherwise, if your eyes go out there, oh, there's my son. Oh, even thinking, I hope people are thinking I'm doing well. All this nonsense has to, not say nonsense, but that type of mentality will interfere with your actual playing the part. You may be Mr. Goodman, but in the play, you've got to be Mr. Badman. You've got to forget that you're Mr. Goodman. And you may even have to kill your own son in the drama. Isn't it? And the more you identify with that drama part, I mean, there are other features involved too, but that's the primary one, the better you play it. And that's like the material world. In this material world, we could say Maya is the director. She's the cast director. He or she, yeah, exactly. She is the cast director. Comes out in different forms in this world. But she's directing the whole show. Of course, she's under Krishna's direction too. But basically in this world, under the influence of time, we're all playing different parts. And it's amazing, under the influence of time, each part we play, that's me. It's me. I remember a couple of years ago we had a brahmachari convention. I don't know if any of you survived it or any of you were on it. On this side of the fence and on that side of the fence. But we had about 70 brahmacharis at the manor for 6 days or something. And then on the grand finale we came down to London for a Maha Sankirtan, Harinam. Saturday evening. And little did some of the devotees know, it was gay day in London. The city was chock-a-block from here in, way over there on the other side of Piccadilly Circus, chock-a-block, out of bounds to anything but those who were gay, or like those who were gay, whatever you want to call it. And it was chock-a-block. I mean, we couldn't even get in with the Harinam party, practically speaking. Not that we really wanted to get in with the Harinam party, but we were going around the periphery as the final test for the brahmacharis to see how well they did on their brahmachari convention. I remember seeing some of these guys, on the periphery, right here actually, on this side. I am my body! He was going, this is me! He was shouting at us, I don't know if someone was talking to them, saying that we're not the body. So the guy was freaking out, he was such a character. Dressed in such a way I've never seen. Or almost undressed in such a way I've never seen. But I am this body was going on. This is me! I'm enjoying it! He was shouting away there. I don't know, next lifetime he'll be doing the same thing in another body, and then another body, and another body. And this way people go on in this material world. And each time you're in the drama, you take a different part and you completely identify with that part. Absolutely, isn't it? And the more you identify with it, the better part you play. Isn't it? I mean, people who are really in this material world, they're really making the mark. I mean, there's other factors involved, but this is general points. They really do well. They really get into it. What's his karma and so many things. And other people also may want to play the same part, and then it gets a bit sticky. But if you really want to succeed, you really got to, because otherwise you won't go for it. As soon as you start thinking, well, maybe I'm not this body, the things change. It's a little hard to play that part in the same way, isn't it? A little difficult, to be a sense enjoyer or whatever. It may not be so easy for us sometimes. We get this back and forth. We're still a bit conditioned and a bit attached, but we have this kind of somewhat realization. Sometimes we may think it's a curse. I think it was that Robin George case or something. There was one girl who joined the movement. She was dragged away by her family or something, and they what do they call it? Not brainwash, what do they call it? Deprogrammed her. And somehow or another, she wasn't very much in the movement for long, I don't think. And somehow after some time, she became what they call deprogrammed, and she became very inimical, and so on. Said, what is her excuse? What's the problem? Said, no, when I eat meat, I can't enjoy meat anymore. One of her arguments. It's like, you got this conscience or something, It's like, people just in the darkness, under the modes of nature. But we're all controlled by time. Even if we do get that part in the drama, and we do go on the stage, and we are in the center stage, and people are lights upon us, how long does it last? Time takes it away after a while, and that's a pretty miserable thing, isn't it? One of the most miserable things is to lose that which you're really dependent on or really attached to, isn't it? Isn't that suffering? I mean, just a little thing, I don't want to get into details, and there's so many stories can be there, but we'll just give a little simple one everyone can relate to. You've lost your mobile phone. Huh? How do you feel? All your addresses are in there, basically, or whatever it is. You lost it. It's gone. Your navigator, TomTom, gone. Where am I going to go? You have nothing to rest on. You're dependent on it. You're lost. Completely lost. What am I going to do? My mobile's gone. I'll have to jump. I'll have to commit suicide. I'll jump off London Bridge. There's no point in living. Actually, I'll buy another one, I suppose. But, the immediate reaction, you lose your wallet or something, it's such a disturbance. This word is a disturbance. And that's just for a little thing which is nearly as, let's say, significant as the very body which we're so attached to. You lost your part. Oh, it's so miserable. And that's all the material world is you get into a position, you get a part, you get bits and pieces along with the part, your paraphernalias, you become really attached, you're fighting for them all the time, trying to preserve them, praying to God to make them better and more, and this and that. And then when we lose them, we get into a complete panic mode. Miserable experience. And then we get another one. And we go from one to the next, dream to the next, dream to the next, dream to the next. And we even fight against God. I'm not going to let go. No, we don't want to let go of our subtle baggage. We're attached to it, very much attached. Just talking in general, I'm not saying individually or something. Devotees, of course. Well, we've got that good fortune, someone that we've been given this chance to wake up. But Kaliya got the good fortune of his wives, and Krishna came along, but he wasn't surrendering. It took a long time before he surrendered. He had to be pretty heavily beaten before he finally surrendered, Krishna really gave him a good beating. Didn't have to be like that. He could have surrendered quicker, but he didn't. He was determined not to. So his wives then started to pray that, please kill him, because that's his best thing that could happen to him. So not that, devotees want to be killed or anything. That's not the principle. But Lord Chaitanya's principle was a little like that with Jagai Madai. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came after Madai had, offended Nityananda in such a heavy way, Lord Chaitanya immediately wanted to kill him. Immediately. You've offended my Nitai in such a serious way. He immediately wanted to kill him. It would be the best thing for him. But then, of course, Nityananda's unlimited mercy, the spiritual master's mercy, even though, really, what qualification do we have, practically speaking? But by the mercy of the spiritual master, he tolerates so many things, you could say. tolerates so much nonsense. Just like a parent may tolerate all kinds of inconveniences for the child. There's so many things. And not that we just tolerate without any purpose or without any direction, but still, in the efforts to spread Krishna consciousness, it's not an easy thing. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said his disciples should be willing to shed 200 gallons of blood for the spiritual corpus of every, living entity, every conditioned soul. It's quite a task. It's not an easy thing to wake up, until we become startled and realize. And we're still kind of hanging in there, kind of like decaffeinated coffee type of an approach to Krishna consciousness. As long as I get my sense I like this movement. Hang on. Subtly, if not gross, well, both to a large extent, but especially subtly, So many attachments. Playing their internal games. And it naturally affects us, when why I'm not getting any taste, why this, why that, why this devotee is always getting on my case, why is no one understanding me, why is no one respecting me, why they always tell me to do things which, why they don't do it. The mind goes on and on and on. What to speak of the more, let's say, distant mental exercises, meditating on the clowns at Oxford Circus, or the other animals down the road there, or whatever it may be, wanting to play someone else's part in the drama, and so on and so forth. All kinds of different games which go on in our minds, enviousness and lusty things and greedy things, and this thing and that thing may go on. The Krishna is trying to release us from that, and we take it sometimes differently. Through others, he works. They may not be fully conscious of that, but that's how Krishna works. He works through his material energies in various ways, or through the heart. He's inspiring other living entities to act in such and such. Those who've had kids, Vasa Ghosh Prabhu and your good wife, and anyone else who's had children, will know quite well what it's like having children, and how much expert they are at revealing what you don't want to be revealed. They can read your mind better than a book. They're like a walking Amazon Kindle, whatever it's called. They just, that's one of the, although we don't like it sometimes, but that's one of the factors of a child. He just spontaneously talks up what we don't like to hear. They can see, they put it out. Shut up, will you? And we say back to them or something. Huh? Oh. I'm not speaking something which is painful to the ears. You have to put money in the meter. Another 10 minutes. Be gone. Clamped. And the zero valued car will be costing you £500 to get back. All right, well, that's life. Well, thank you so kindly. Oh, we hope so too, yeah. Oh, we hope so. Manchester and India have a close relationship, don't forget. You have to go to Manchester. Thank you so much, Shastra Ghosh Prabhu. It was great to see you, and thank you to see you again. Hare Krishna. Well, now you've been saved. Delivered. I just waffle along, 90%. Oh, Hare Krishna, more than me. Hare Krishna. Hare. If we could hear 1%, we would be doing something. So we've got that good fortune. The Nagapatnis, they were so kind to their sinful husband. And Srila Prabhupada and all of our acharyas, they're so kind that despite our lack of qualification, despite our being full of goodness knows what type of desires and so on and so forth, Srila Prabhupada's good wishes, his prayers. One time in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada is discussing the wonderful deliverance of the dog of Shivananda Singh. That dog went back to Godhead by the good fortune of being dear to Shivananda Singh, by having the good wishes of pure devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada says there he wishes that all of his disciples but also become pure devotees, so that by their good wishes also all the living entities can be delivered back to Godhead, even without their knowledge. It's the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. By their prayers, by their good wishes, we may be delivered. One has to get those good wishes. So we should try to behave in such a way, not artificially, but sincerely, to get those good wishes. Haribol Vasugosh Prabhu. Haribol Mataji. Hare Krishna. We'll see you tomorrow. No, Saturday, isn't it? Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah. Rath Yatra is Saturday in Manchester. Oh, you would have been driving up on Sunday, you would have missed it. I actually don't know, it'll be about usually it's about midday, but I can't, don't quote me on that. It's Saturday, yeah. Yeah, Saturday. Edinburgh's on Sunday if you want to come to Scotland. Yeah. The Royal City of Edinburgh, it's quite a place. Oh yeah. Won't miss that for anything. Yeah. Well, it's quite a way. It's as far again. Yeah. Yeah, it may be a little bit further than Manchester, but not much. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Anyway, you can stay in Manchester overnight, by the way, if you want to. Good. No problem. If you've got an arrangement, that's perfect. If you don't have one, let me know. We can arrange if you don't have also. No worries. No. I'm going to the London Bridge. I'm going to London Bridge this morning. See you later. Haribo. So Prabhupada was saying like that, he hoped that all his disciples, just by their good wishes of pure devotee, one will go back to God, even without their knowledge, he said. Such is the... One time in San Francisco, Prabhupada it was Rath Yatra, 74, I think. Prabhupada was given a lecture after the Rath Yatra, and it was Golden Gate Park. Who's been to San Francisco? You've been to the Golden Gate Park? Are you from America? Where are you from? You're from London also. Huh? You've been to Golden Gate Park? No, you didn't jump off. San Francisco Bridge. Oh, you're a little kid then, just holidaying. You went to the park. Oh, we probably did. I think I've never been, but it's a pretty big park, I've heard. And they have Rath Yatra there, and still do as far as I know. Every year they have the Rath Yatra festival, big Rath Yatra festival. Going back 67 they started there. And that year Prabhupada was lecturing, and the park was full. Maybe it wasn't 74, maybe it was earlier. But Prabhupada was lecturing to all these people in the park. Mostly they were hippies, lying around on the park, on the grass. Most of them were completely intoxicated. Some of them were pretty much half naked, or even fully naked. And they're lying there on the park. And Prabhupada's giving a lecture, and whether or not they could even hear it. But he said, all you young boys and girls who have seen Lord Jagannath today on the Rath Yatra car, he said, your next life you're going back to Godhead. That's what he said. Right there in this. You can read it. It's in the photo. So, it is amazing. By a pure devotee's mercy only we've gotten this chance. We haven't got much other. We're completely absorbed, most of us, in trying to play a part in the drama, or if we're having a hard time with that part, we want to be playing someone else's part, this, that, the other, under the control of nature, and time taking everything away, and we're still struggling, fighting against time, trying to keep going to the merit, fighting. We have to stop this nonsense fight against time. We don't fight against time, we use time. Time is Krishna. We have to learn to use time, respect time, don't waste time, or fight against it. Some people, they want to carry on living by pipes in their mouths and pipes in their here and there, keeping them pumping, different things, keeping them plugging in here, plugging in there, try to keep the old thing going. I don't want to, I still want to be on the stage. This is the illusion that people are in. So illusion. Then when death comes, they do become startled, but it's a different type of startling. It's the other way of surrendering to Krishna. We have to realize we don't really belong in this drama. We belong in the spiritual drama. There Krishna is the director, or Radharani, which depends which plane you're on. But that's our real drama. We have to enter into spiritual drama. So we're practicing now. We're practicing our part for the spiritual world. When you're going through practices, sometimes it's pretty austere. It's very frustrating when you're a director, I can say that. People don't turn up on time, they haven't learnt their lines, they haven't meditated on their part, and it's a real struggle. You have to tolerate and tolerate and tolerate and keep on and on and on. It's like that, we got all the script, everything's there, everything's there. There's nothing we don't have. We got all the makeup, everything's there, and still we're not doing it. Still we're not taking it. We're still trying to, do our own thing. If we listen to the real director, Krishna or Krishna's representative, and we got everything else is there, it takes a little time, as any drama, it takes a little time before we become perfect. Prabhupada gave the example when he was a kid. He played Advaitacharya in one drama. And then for 1 year or more they were rehearsing. And when they actually came on stage, it was immaculate. Impeccable. The word here, impeccable. They were impeccable. The audience was crying. It pleased the audience. So we also want to become impeccable to please Krishna. Our business is to please Krishna. The purpose of the real drama is to please. This material drama is to please ourselves. The real drama is to please Krishna. And that's what we're trying to practice now. Our dancing, chanting, hearing, this thing, that thing, is really meant for the pleasure of Krishna, not for our own pleasure. And that's what the pure devotees are trying to do. They're trying to prepare us, so to speak, just like Ramananda Roy, he prepared the dancing, the Devi Dasis, who would dance for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. Young girls, virgin girls, he would personally prepare them. It is ridiculous, you'd say. But he was such, of course, he's none other than Vishaka Devi herself, or Lalita Devi, sometimes one or the other. But he's in that mood, and his only business, his only thought, is how to prepare these young girls for Jagannath's pleasure. So this is spiritual. Those who are actually acharyas are always thinking how to help this soul to, to wake up. It's like a man may wake up with his wife, sleeping wife, to enjoy sex life. Prabhupada gives that example. So this is not, that's a gross example, but the same example can be used, that the pure devotees are trying to wake us up so we may become pleasing to Krishna. That's their motivation, to bring pleasure to Krishna. We're meant for Krishna's pleasure. In this material world, Krishna has given us this world, but here we see it for my pleasure, not for Krishna's pleasure. By learning to use this material world, learning to use time, learning to use everything for Krishna's pleasure, we're preparing ourselves to be eligible to enter into that real drama. And there are no spectators up there. There are no spectators. Everyone's a participant. So we're learning to play our part so we can enter into the spiritual realm. That's the mercy of having the association of a pure devotee. And to enter into those impeccable, spotless pastimes of the Lord. Everything the Lord does is impeccable, perfect. So we're going to time and tide wait for no man or anyone. So we have to finish now. Any questions? Through the material energy. It's a good question on the spot at the moment, and I mean, we get that all the time, I suppose. I don't keep a record of it. Let's think. Can anyone? It doesn't have to be me. It could be anyone. Let's all think about how we can learn from this material energy, or something which we've actually learned from this material energy, which has spurred us on. And besides we could say, there's so much suffering in this material world. It's a general thing, but something a little bit more specific. Let's all think for a minute. Is that right? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Have a think. Come on. Think tanks, yes. Hiroshima? Is it the greatest disaster? Really? Uh-huh. Really? Is that what it's doing? Is it melting down, is it? Still going on? Huh? Really? My goodness. So there. What? So what have you learned from that? Wake up call. Okay, you got to. There you go. There's an example. It could be anything like that. We've all had certain wake up calls. I'm sure of that in our lives. That's one. I was there just a couple of weeks before that. Well, I was just in Christchurch. I was in Christchurch a week after that earthquake, and it was a bit of a shock to this city, which is everyone considers to be like, the dream of the English who escaped from England. This is the dream city. It's like those been to Christchurch, a peaceful, beautiful city with tree-lined avenues, no pollution, hardly any factories. Everyone's like trim and pretty, lots of flowers everywhere, nicely laid out city centre with a river flowing through the middle with parks on both sides and nice ornate buildings, and with just, millions of Japanese and Chinese people coming there to have a look and take pictures. Such a beautiful place. And then all of a sudden, ba-dum, ba-dum. And still to this day, they don't know what the heck to do. It's just, they're still knocking down buildings till this very day. Everyone's life, the carpet was just torn from underneath their feet. Shaken up. And not yet, and people haven't recovered by any means. But they still haven't learnt their lesson. And it takes a lot before we learn our lessons. At least for myself, quite an experience. But people still, we went to the memorial ceremony a month after 4 weeks or something after the earthquake, and the big park there, Hagley Park, and there's the mayor and the prime minister of Australia and New Zealand and the archbishop and the Prince William, and so many people are there gassing on in front of everybody. No one can explain why this has happened to the good people of this glorious city. But do not fear, we assure you we will rebuild this city. It will become more glorious, more technologically advanced. They were going on and on like this, But it wasn't really much understanding what was going on. But this is their illusion. They still haven't realized we don't belong in this world. Suffering is there. We've all suffered considerable loss in various times of our lives. Sometimes people develop a mood of detachment, but it's not an internal mood. It's only based on the externals, and it doesn't last. We have to develop that internal mood. So, I don't want to. I'll give you one of the first experiences which I ever had of learning from this material world. And I don't want to get into the later ones now, there's not time, but one of the first ones I had was when I was 20 years old. 21 years old. I was at the Glastonbury Festival. Some of you have been to the Glastonbury Festival. Have you been to who's been to the Glastonbury Festival? Hands in the air. Some of you have been. There were some devotees still go there to preach, although it's changed a lot since 1971. And at that time, I was not aware of the Hare Krishna movement. I was aware of Hare Krishna, but not the Hare Krishna movement. I went there with my friends to that that big event, and with all honesty, and we're not recommending that you have to do this, but I went there and I took an enormous amount of intoxication, and not an enormous amount, but very powerful intoxication, and I'd taken many times before and knew pretty much what it was all about, but this was something I never experienced quite before. It was something much more powerful than anything I ever experienced, and I was gone, completely lost. I never had that experience before, and it was actually a direct experience of how hellish this material world is. Complete hell. Every single thing turned into hell. It was such a painful experience of being trampled to death, being, sucked into the cosmos and crushed again and again. It was just like a description out of the fifth canto, literally speaking. I never knew what the fifth canto was at that point of time. No idea. Like going through mangles and being crushed to death and ripped apart by all kinds of creatures. I could actually see creatures that I, caused harm to, doing that to me. And after that, I never again took intoxication. I never again ate meat. It gave me a complete realization of what was going on. Something like what Narada Muni gave to Mrigarya the hunter, though it was in a different way entirely. It wasn't direct, but it was amazing. So I learned something from that, although that wasn't directly related to Krishna consciousness, but part of it. That was the first vivid experience that I can remember. I mean, really vivid one. Something which we somehow or another learnt from by some causeless mercy. Sometimes we never learn. I didn't used to learn at school at college. Sometimes we go drinking every night. I get sick as a dog, and then I would say, I'm never going to do that again. Next night I was doing it again. This is a common thing in the material world. We get into trouble and we want to do it again. But this one we learn from. So in our own Krishna consciousness, again, if we think deeply, it's a good point, and it's something which would be worthwhile recording, actually. But off the top of my head, I know one thing I've learned, which has probably taken a long time. I can't say that one specific incident may have caused it, but I learned not to blame anyone else for anything that may happen in their lives. And that's one of the major lessons to learn. I mean, it's a simple lesson in one sense, but the material or spiritual, you can apply the same thing. But certainly if you're trying to become Krishna conscious, it's a big blockage if we ever blame anyone else for what's happening in our lives. We cannot really progress. That's one of the main things. I learned to laugh at myself. That was another thing. That came after a very serious bout of being, say, psychologically, you can say, psychologically dealt, not literally speaking, but a devotee who thought his duty was to psychologically put people straight. So he would always be giving us a kind of hard time, if you want to call it that. And he said, well, one thing about this, you have to learn to laugh at yourself. So it's stuck in my mind always. But, it's not me. It's some conditioning which is going on here, and something's going on to try to help me to get free of that conditioning through this other person. To see them as somehow or another the Lord's instrument to help me to, and sometimes to laugh at how we look at it. So many things we could go on and on and on, I suppose, if we really thought about it. And some of them are impersonal, because as we go through our lives, you can learn some things by hearing, some things we have to learn by experiencing. So sometimes we hear things from hearing. We've got to be careful that they're relevant to us at that point of time. Otherwise, it may not be the right thing for us at that point of time. So we don't necessarily talk about anything and everything in that regards, because it may not be relevant to the audience or the individual at that point of time. In fact, it may be detrimental to their spiritual life if they take it wrongly. But we will get those. Everyone will get that opportunity throughout their lives to get realization. Sometimes it's. I remember another example. I was on Sankirtan in Newcastle one time when I was a younger devotee. We just opened a temple, well, not a temple, just a center in Newcastle, way back 30 more years ago, and I was alone. No one else. We used to go out alone and open centers in those days. We used to go out and open a center with no money, nobody with you, nowhere to stay. We were staying in a derelict house in the basement, alone, with one urchin. This fellow was quite something. I'd seen before, so it wasn't such a shock. But he used to live there. He never took a bath in the months that I stayed there once. He never washed his plate or washed his pots once the whole time I was there. Never washed his hands after going to the toilet. Nothing. He was really an urchin. Or maybe an avadut. He was imitating Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj. But he was really quite something. So we used to stay in places like that. And we had no money. Just go out on the street, whatever, beaten up old back to goddess, try to distribute those, get a few pennies. And one day I was alone, and at one time I was dressed in karmi clothes, and I saw, because nobody knows who you are when you're in karmi clothes, so it gives I was on my own, it was a little weak. So I remember one time I was looking at this. I never had any in my whole life anything electronic, and sort of electronics were just starting to come on the market. Some simple, gross-looking tape recorders and things. So I was looking in the window of this electrical shop, and saw these kind of electrical things in there, like tape recorders and what have you. And I was thinking, oh, it'd be nice to have one of those. And I was stood there looking, and all of a sudden, as I was looking, somebody in the crowd, and God knows, I never found out who it was, they kind of sneaked up behind me and said, "Maya," and ran away. I saw them disappear. I thought, who was that? What was that? Is that a person, or was that Krishna, or what is it? And it shook me up, I kind of woke up and I thought, well, that's true. I'm in Maya. I'm just, gawking at this window, dreaming. So then I decided I was not going to wear karmic clothes again. So then I didn't wear them again after that. I just wore dhoti. Then, you can't do that sort of thing when you can if you really want to, but it's not the thing that people normally do. When you're in the dhoti, you know where you stand. That's why I hope it's not the reason why so many devotees put on karmic clothes when they go out. I hope not. Because if it is, you're in trouble. We're just, digging our own grave in one sense. If we're putting on karmic clothes so we can get away with things we wouldn't do when we have a dhoti on or something. There was a time when in the movement the devotees were afraid. I was in America one time on traveling in 1983, and nobody would go out with a dhoti on unless they were going on Harinam, which was only once a year for most of them. So nobody would wear dhoti if they went outside the temple. But why not? They said, well, people don't like us. It's not good that they criticize it. I was wearing a dhoti the whole time. I never found one person throughout months and months of traveling in America who criticized once. But rather so many people were coming up and asking, what are you doing? Who are you? So many. I was in France a few years ago, and we go every year, but a few years ago in New Mayapur, I said, let's go on Harinam Sankirtan. The boy said, we don't do that around here. I said, why not? They said, because the people don't like us. I said, well, if you don't do it, how do you know they don't like it? I said, well, last time we went out, they didn't like it. I said, when was that? 15 years ago. I said, well, maybe they've changed. No. We went out, and it was as good as anywhere I'd ever been. It's in some small villages around New Mayapur. It's our own psychology. We've got to change the way we look at the world. The world is doing its part. We've got to change the way. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, it's not the world that has to change, it's the way we see it. So the things that go on in our lives help to change the way we see the world, not the world. It's not that we even reject the world as hell, but we see it differently. To learn to see this as Krishna's world. To learn to see Krishna's hand working in different ways, in everything that goes on. The miracles that go on, the experiences of being protected by the Lord in different situations, the things that go on with others around us. I mean, if you really get down to it, it's a good you should write something about it. That should be your exercise. You should write, not a book necessarily, but you should write something on how to see through experiences in this world, wake-up calls. Things that you should do it. You can gather from different devotees little things if you wish. Something very nice to help to remind us. Alright, we better finish there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.